The Russian Navy is facing a serious crisis due to Ukrainian attacks in the Black Sea and the loss of a strategic port in Syria. Arjen Warnaar, commander of NATO's standing Maritime Group 1, told Business Insider. According to him, the Ukrainian Armed Forces strikes and failures in the Middle East have significantly undermined the potential of the Russian fleet from the Mediterranean to the Arctic. Russian ships had previously been operating at the limit of their capabilities due to problems in shipbuilding, the need for total repairs, and limited modernization. Now the situation has become critical. The aging fleet is suffering heavy losses, and the shipbuilding industry is nowhere near making up for the losses. The end of 2024 was particularly painful when Bashar al-Assad fell from power in Syria. Russia had supported his regime for years in exchange for access to the naval base in Tartus. The port was a key point for Moscow's operations in the Mediterranean. But after the change of power in Damascus, the future of Russia's presence there was in question. Varnaar stressed that the loss of Tartus is forcing Russia to redeploy forces from other regions, straining already worn-out ships, submarines, and supply systems. Other NATO officials share a similar view, noting that Russia's failures in the Black Sea are exacerbating the shortage of combat-ready forces. Moscow also faces pressure to respond to NATO's increased presence in the Arctic. Climate change has opened up new shipping routes, creating both economic and military opportunities. NATO actively patrols the region, monitoring Russia's actions and assessing its response. Earlier, media reported that 3 NATO countries made a move aimed against Moscow's shadow fleet. Sweden and Denmark, and before that, Germany, have begun demanding insurance documents from tankers passing through their waters in the Baltic Sea, Foreign Policy reports. Vessels without official insurance will be blacklisted by the US, UK, and EU, which will limit their operations and hit the oil revenues of the aggressor country. According to maritime law professor Christina Sieg from the Southern University of Denmark, the problem lies in the reluctance of ship owners to disclose documents. Shadow tankers often avoid pilots and pose risks of environmental disasters. In addition, there is a suspicion that such vessels could be used by Moscow for underwater sabotage in the Baltic Sea. In May, the EU imposed sanctions on Russian insurer VSK for its role in facilitating shady shipping. Sieg estimates that the illegal trade will now be less attractive to cautious ship owners. Previously, such restrictions by European countries were considered legally questionable, but now Sweden, Denmark, and Germany have begun to apply them more decisively.
U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday there will be very severe consequences if Russian President Vladimir Putin doesn't agree to stop the Ukraine war after Friday's summit. According to Associated Press, the president also said that his call with Ukraine's president and European leaders was very friendly and rated it a 10 out of 10. Trump is meeting with Putin in Alaska on Friday and says the one-on-one will happen before any discussions involving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. European leaders organized a call on Wednesday so that Trump could speak with Zelensky. But Trump didn't answer questions subsequently on whether he insisted the Putin meeting be done without Zelensky.
We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10, very, very friendly.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes. That will go rapidly, relatively inexpensively, and will make it better than it ever was.
How were your calls this morning with European leaders, and was it your call not to invite President Zelensky to your meeting with Putin?
No, just the opposite. No. We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10, you know, very, very friendly. I know the leaders because I was at NATO, as you know. I took it from 2% to 5%, 2% that wasn't paid, 5% that is paid, which is trillions of dollars in defense capability. No, it was always going to be, I was going to meet with President Putin, and then after that, I'm going to call the leaders and President Zelensky. I'm going to call President Zelensky, and then I'll call, probably in that order, the leaders. There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing. Again, this is Biden's war. This isn't my war. He got us into this thing, and it should have never happened. This war would have never happened if I were president. But it is what it is, and I'm here to fix it, and I'm here to stop 6,000, 7,000 people last week. 7,213 people last week were killed, mostly soldiers. But missiles being lobbed into towns don't exactly help either, but mostly soldiers. And Ukrainian and Russian, they're not American soldiers, but you know, if we can save a lot of lives, it would be a great thing. I've stopped 5 wars in the last 6 months. And on top of that, we wiped out the nuclear capability of Iran, obliterated it. It's turned out to be a correct word, by the way, because, you know, some of the press said, well, maybe it wasn't obliteration. It was obliteration. We're going to meet with, I would say, the second meeting. If the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately. And we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself, if they'd like to have me there. And that would be a meeting where maybe it could be absolutely work. But the first meeting will not work that out. Certain great things can be gained in the first. It's going to be a very important meeting. But it's setting the table for the second meeting. I think the second meeting, if the second meeting takes place. Now, there may be no second meeting, because if I feel that it's not appropriate to have it because I didn't get the answers that we have to have, then we're not going to have a second meeting.
There's new reporting that the Russians have hacked into some computer systems that manage U.S. federal court documents. I wonder if you've seen this reporting and if you plan to bring it up with Putin when you see him.
I guess I could. Are you surprised? You know, are you surprised? They hack in. That's what they do. They're good at it. We're good at it. We're actually better at it. But no, I have heard about it. I have heard about it. Please. You know, but the stats are very bad. But we're going to. I think we'll actually get Democrat support. I really believe they can't do this one too. It's, you know.